Welcome into the MLB Hot Stove Daily afternoon update for the winter meetings. Jordan Romano has agreed to a one-year contract with the Philadelphia Phillies. Philly adding a closer. They needed to add one after Estevez. Looks like he is going to be leaving in free agency. Phillies are going to be very active here at the winter meetings. I'd imagine they're in all kinds of different trade conversations, including Alec Boehm, Nick Castellanos, Ranger Suarez, among others. They've been connected to a couple of different starters from the Seattle Mariners, a couple of different moves elsewhere, and even in the free agent market, they've been connected to guys like Alex Bregman. Juan Soto has signed with the New York Mets, 15 years, $765 million, $75 million signing bonus, and there is an opt-out after the fifth year. If the Mets decide to void that opt-out and just keep it as a straight 15-year deal, then the deal will become worth $805 million as an escalator there. Absolutely incredible deal, but the rest of the market is now finally starting to move. We're seeing a lot of commentary right now from multiple reports that Anthony Santander might be the top target for the Yankees, Blue Jays, and Red Sox. Teoscar Hernandez as well. So those are kind of the top items here right now at the winter meetings. So let's dig into those. Alrighty, so we'll start with the Juan Soto news and what the breakdown is after that. So Juan Soto goes immediately into the New York Mets lineup, slots in behind Francisco Lindor as their number 2 hitter, and there's still more work for them to do. They still need to add their first baseman back, Pete Alonso. I expect they'll get that done. I expect them to add another piece, whether it be a middle infielder, somebody that can flex over to third base. I believe they will add at least one more bat to that lineup. They still need to go after some starting pitching. Commentary after the deal last night was, are they still going to go after Corbin Burnes, or they do what they've always done with David Stearns, go for more of the 2-3 year contracts? Looks like they're still in there for Corbin Burnes. If Corbin Burnes is really their top target, I don't imagine Steve Cohen is going to say, well, we've invested 765 in Soto, we might as well pump the brakes. I think he's going to see that this is a real chance for them to capitalize on the market, much like the Dodgers did last year after bringing in Shohei Ohtani. They got Glass now, Yamamoto, Teoscar Hernandez. They continued to add to that roster. I do not think the Mets are done. They're going to add a bullpen arm as well, so the Mets will remain active. What does this mean now for the rest of the teams that were in there for Juan Soto? Dodgers were on the periphery of that. They have since moved on even before Juan Soto news became official. They went ahead and added a left-handed hitting outfielder in Michael Conforto. A little bit puzzling as far as the total value on the contract, but maybe they see something I don't. They are still in there for Santander and for Teoscar Hernandez, but it's said by reports now, at least today anyway, that they're starting to pull back a little bit on those negotiations as well. Seems like they're going to be looking elsewhere for a right-handed hitting corner outfielder, so keep your eyes peeled for somebody else that we don't see on the horizon right now for the Los Angeles Dodgers. They still are looking for some bullpen help, even after agreeing to a deal last night with Blake Trinan, 2 years, $22 million. Now, Red Sox are still looking firmly at one of those corner outfielders that's on the market, Teoscar Hernandez and Anthony Santander, but they're also looking at the starting pitcher market. Their top target is Max Fried, not Corbin Burns. So if they do have the top offer out there for Max Fried, I wouldn't be surprised if that market started to move rather quickly. Another bit of news from the Boston Red Sox is they seem to be the top destination for Garrett Crochet. The reason being is that they seem to be willing to part with their top infield prospect, Marcelo Mayer. You might remember him being one of the top picks in the MLB draft a year or two ago. And he'd be a nice get for the Chicago White Sox, who are prioritizing position players in return for Garrett Crochet. Now, it's still going to take more than Mayer, I do believe, to get the deal done. Red Sox, I believe, are going to try to get a long-term deal negotiated with Crochet beforehand as well. But it's still a big risk, a big gamble, because you have one solid, high-profile year for Garrett Crochet. Is that enough to really pedal it into something productive? So we'll see what happens there. Blue Jays don't get Juan Soto. They're still looking for corner infielders and corner outfielders. They're looking for a third baseman. Possibly this is an Alex Bregman team. Red Sox are another Alex Bregman team along with the New York Yankees. John, the Yankees going to trade with the Cubs for Bellinger. That is one possibility. I haven't heard any new news since we discussed that a few hours ago, but the market is active around Bellinger. There are several teams discussing that possibility. It's just a matter of whether or not the Cubs are willing to eat money and how much are they willing to eat as far as whether or not they move him. Seiyu Suzuki is the other name from the Chicago Cubs that could be moved. I do not think the Yankees are necessarily a fit there. Brianna, Phillies won 2025. Well, I would say right now the Dodgers, still are right at the top of the class in the National League. I would say the Phillies, along with the Mets, are 2-3, depending on how you view it. I still think the Phillies are a very dynamic team. This team that they have right now, currently constructed, I do not think will be the team that takes the field when it comes to opening day 2025. I think they're going to shake things up a little bit. I think Bohm is probably going to be the guy that's out. And if they do trade Bohm, I would not be surprised if they are the team that spends the money for Alex Bregman. Remember, Bregman has over 400 postseason at-bats, and that's the one area this team has really struggled in the postseason. Bregman knows how to get over that hump, and I would not be surprised if they look for playoff pedigree performers when it comes to an Alex Bregman to replace an Alec Bohm in that lineup. They're looking for something big to shake things up here, so we shall see. But appreciate you guys joining us here on a Monday afternoon. But the Phillies do get a good start here, bringing in Jordan Romano. They're still looking for some more bullpen help. Remember, Hoffman is a free agent. Estevez is a free agent as well. They're going to need some more arms for the back end of that bullpen. They're not necessarily out on bringing back either one of those guys in addition to adding Jordan Romano. As for Jordan Romano specifically, remember he was non-tendered by the Toronto Blue Jays a couple of weeks back, and very similar salary structure here. So we'll see, how this works out with Philadelphia. Is this the answer, to their bullpen woes that they've had? But we shall see. Thank you, John. Like and subscribe. Yeah, absolutely. If you guys are new here, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe. It certainly does help us out. And let's go ahead and dig in on some of the new rumors that have happened over the last few hours. We'll start with X anyway, just to see if anything has popped off in the last couple of minutes. Doesn't look like it. We did get some more updates on Juan Soto's contract is that he's going to be getting a suite for his family every year of that deal, roughly a $500,000 value per season, at least at current value. That number, of course, will go up over time as those suites will become more and more expensive. But this opt out in that deal is kind of a unique thing for me. I like the opt out, giving an option to Juan Soto if the money in baseball gets so much better that he has the chance to opt out and make even more money. But in all likelihood, if I'm the New York Mets and this contract works the way it should, what you're expecting out of this deal, you're taking that opt out, ripping it up, and saying, "Nah, we'll go ahead and pay you an extra $4 million to make sure you're here for the length of that 15 years." Now I understand, $765 million sounds like a lot of money, and it absolutely is. But just think of where we were, say, 20 years ago with Alex Rodriguez, when he got $252 million from the Texas Rangers. He was the guy at the top of the Mount Rushmore as far as salaries for about 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. And then we saw him do it all over again and got the next biggest contract at that same time, over $300 million. And then Albert Pujols was the next big contract, over $250 million. There's very few of these free agents that reset the payroll structure like Juan Soto just did. You're not going to have another $500 million contract signed over the next few off seasons. We tried speculating as far as who might be that next guy. We thought maybe Bobby Witt could have been that guy before he opted to sign there. But Bo Bichette could be the only guy that probably breaks 300, maybe 400, based on how money might go. But Vlad Guerrero Jr. ain't going to get there. First basemen aren't paid like they used to be. So we're probably looking 3, 4, 5 years before we get another contract over 500. But this is kind of a once in a generation type talent here to hit free agency so early on. Really have all of the big market teams interested and have money to spend at that time, and all teams bidding on him. So things could not have broke any better for Juan Soto. And oh, by the way, he had an absolutely incredible postseason run with those same New York Yankees. You saw how effective he was in that lineup, how helpful he was to Aaron Judge winning the MVP, how helpful he was by taking pitches, allowing Judge to see what was coming, and then allowing Judge to kind of take it one step further. But Soto was still a great performer last year, not just taking pitches. He really has a command in that batter's box, and he used that same command with his free agency. Very deliberate in how he did it. Really, really exemplary free agency for Juan Soto. You didn't like the Orioles move. Think they should have re-signed Santander. I don't mind it. For me, Tyler O'Neill is a good backup option here for a team that's riddled with budget constraints. I would rather them spend the money on a top flight starting pitcher. Now, if they miss on, Corbin Burns, bringing him back, or and they miss on several other top targets. Say there's no Eovaldi coming, Crochet goes somewhere else, Max Fried somewhere else, and they're left with Jack Flaherty as their ace going into next year. I would be more than a little miffed if I was a Baltimore Orioles fan. I would look at that rotation. I'd say that's their one weakness on this team. We didn't address it. And by the way, we lose Anthony Santander, the better player than O'Neill. The money that we saved with O'Neill, we should have spent on a starting pitcher, and then they don't go out there and do that. So I understand the Orioles have certain budget constraints that some of these top flight teams don't, but you still have to be able to put a representative pitching staff out there. We shall see what they do. But for me, the Orioles, I don't mind the Tyler O'Neill signing. I think it's a good depth signing for them. Kind of replaces the production of Santander at a little bit of a discounted rate, of course. But I still think it's a good signing overall. The number isn't bad. Santander is probably going to get over $23, $25 million a year. Teoscar Hernandez is going to be over that number. O'Neill was beneath that number, so they did good on acquiring the talent that they wanted, filled a hole, a position of need, while still having money left to address their starting rotation. But get back to me in a few months anyway when they've figured out their rotation, what pieces they're going to have back. Because if they don't add the pieces they need at the top of that rotation, then I'm going to have some different analysis for the way this signing worked out. Because if you're not going to sign the top flight free agent starter, Corbin Burns, that you had in your own place, and you're not going to go out there and bring in Snell, you're not going to bring in Fried, you're not going to trade for Crochet, what are we doing here? Why are we saving money just for the sake of saving money? That would be my bigger question there for the Orioles. But they have to get some starting pitching. That's my one big caveat there. I wish MLB would do a salary cap. It's never going to happen. That's the long and short of it. The CBT, the luxury tax threshold anyway, that kind of operates as a quote-unquote salary cap. It's never going to be a strict dollar amount. It's never going to be allowed by Major League Baseball's Players Association. So as much as we might like or dislike the idea of a salary cap, it's never going to happen. So let's not waste our time wishing and hoping for it. Let's think of how we can make the system that we have, the luxury tax, CBT thresholds, compensation, qualifying offers, how can we make that system work a little bit better to where it would rival what we would expect from a quote-unquote salary cap. That would be what I would expect, for Major League Baseball to look into. Another thing they're going to look into is these deferrals the Los Angeles Dodgers have been doing. Other Major League owners are not too happy with the way Major League Baseball has allowed them to defer so much money. I would expect them to put a hard cap on how much deferrals you can have. You can still spend as much as you want, but you better not go over, say, like $100,000 in deferrals. The Dodgers, meanwhile, have over $1 billion in deferrals from 28 through 46, I believe. That's an incredible amount of money that they have deferred. John, do I like the Yankees? I'm not a huge Yankees fan. You guys know I'm a Rangers fan, but I like the way that they're going to have to change their roster. I didn't like the way they were all slug happy. I'm not exactly a fan of the way they've kind of stuck their nose up at the rest of baseball and thought they're the elites for so long. Now they're going to have to realize that there are other mega teams out there in Major League Baseball, other teams that can compete financially. Dodgers, Mets, Rangers, Red Sox, Blue Jays, Cubs to a certain extent all have more money. Phillies have more money as well. Astros are a little bit cheaper, but they still are able to compete more than what they would have in the past. But this is an incredible chance for Major League Baseball to level the playing field, at least with those mega teams out there. So the Yankees, I think this is a real chance for them to kind of reformulate how they're going about this offseason, go for a little bit more athleticism, go for more postseason performance, those types of things, rather than just straight pure slug and just name on the back of the jersey, numbers on the back of the baseball card, those types of numbers. Yankees need to do something different. Baseball has moved past those types of things, and the game is starting to pass them by a little bit. They got lucky with Aaron Judge. They were not expecting that level of player to come out of that. They got really lucky with that one. Jason Dominguez looks like he could be another, homegrown guy for them to count on. Still early for them to count on him this season. That's why I expect them to try to add a corner outfielder. But I'm curious to see which directions they go now. Do they go the slugging route, or do they finally wise up and go with more athleticism, contact, all those types of things? We talked about that one, Brianna. Phillies won 2025, or maybe Phillies win 2025 is what you're trying to say. To me, I'd still consider the Dodgers the favorite. Mets and Phillies tied for second or third, however you want to picture it there. Welcome in, Vinny. Appreciate you guys joining us once again. Let's go ahead and scroll down a little bit, see if anything else is happening. MLB Trade Rumors says Bellinger is generating trade interest anyway. Seiyu Suzuki trade less likely. Obviously, they would prefer to trade Bellinger and his money rather than Suzuki. There is more money tied up in Bellinger. Will Venable gets the coaching role there with the White Sox. He's got a tough road ahead. And then, of course, the Romano news. Let's go ahead and update the page once again, see if anything else is happening. Let's go over to MLB Trade Rumors, and then we'll get into some trade talk real quick. Remember, we'll be live again this evening to update you guys on what's happening from around the winter meetings. Probably be around 7, 8 o'clock, so be sure to join us for a longer recap of the day's transactions. How many owners are making money but isn't putting a good product on the field for the city or its fans? Don't blame Dodgers, Mets, Yankees, and other great teams spending. I would agree there are some owners that are in it for the money-making aspect of it. There is a business side to baseball. Now, how many of those teams are, putting a bad product on the field, not caring about what actually goes into it? That's a tough question. Because for me, there are some ownership groups out there that aren't making the money that other teams are. While they're still making money, yes, they're trying to operate at a net positive value. For instance, the Miami Marlins don't have a huge wealth of money to pull from, but they do still try to operate, within their budget constraints and operate in the positive. I would say that there is more money for them to spend to invest in that team. They've shown the willingness to spend in the past, but they've been too frugal in my mind. I would like to see them open up the pocketbooks a little bit more. I think Derek Jeter left because of that primary reason. They weren't willing to open up the pocketbooks for a Nick Castellanos. Ultimately, I think Castellanos would have been a good boon for that team. I think their offense would be significantly better. They've had good starting pitching for years now, but that offense has been abysmal. Bringing in a Nick Castellanos to solve some of those issues. They traded for Luis Arraez. Having those two guys in the middle of that lineup really would have done wonders for how good that starting pitching is. And they had Tanner Scott as well. They've had good bullpen arms. So, a team like the Marlins would be a team that I would say needed to have spent more money. Keep it rolling. Thanks for the updates. Absolutely, Paul. John, are the Yankees going to sign anyone today at the winter meetings? Today? I still believe they're going to be active today. I think they're probably going to sign at least a few guys here at the winter meetings overall. But the market has since kind of reshaped itself after the Juan Soto deal. There is plenty of conversations going on Santander and Hernandez. I think those are the next dominoes to fall from the outfield market. I think Bregman's probably the biggest free agent left. He might sign before the end of the winter meetings. I wouldn't be surprised by that one. We could even get a Garrett Crochet trade before the end of the winter meetings. That coming from John Paul Morosi as well. But should be an active winter meetings here now that Juan Soto signed on the eve of the winter meetings. Right after the Hall of Fame announcement, he signed about 2 hours after. Much like we predicted, we would expect some activity to happen after that announcement. Boom, we got the announcement, and now the rest of the market is coming into place. New headline here, Carson Kelly and the Chicago Cubs are progressing on a deal. Remember, Carson Kelly was traded from the Detroit Tigers to the Texas Rangers last year, and his numbers went down with Texas, but it looks like Carson Kelly is going to be the next catcher there with the Chicago Cubs. Good get there. I think Carson Kelly, really liked playing up there in the Great Lakes area, and going back into that Detroit-Chicago area is good for him. Hopefully he gets back to the offensive production he had in the first half of 24. But I wouldn't expect this to be a huge deal. Danny Jansen got 1 year, 8.5 from the Rays. I'd expect this deal to be a little bit less than that. I would rather have had Danny Jansen than Carson Kelly. So I'm expecting probably 6, maybe 7 here. Burns or Fried, who signs first? Good question. Honestly, I think it's going to be really close. I think Burns probably takes a little bit longer because there's more teams that are looking at him. Fried, I think the market could move quickly on him because the Red Sox, for instance, are prioritizing him over Corbin Burns. So if they reach that number, maybe he signs a little bit earlier. But if he doesn't go to the Red Sox, then I would guess Burns goes first. Gotta love that picture of the Yankees. Long face on Judge. Boom. All right, my Orioles wish list, I would to re-sign Burns, add Eovaldi, and bullpen piece probably won't happen, or add Crochet. I would absolutely agree with that wish list. I think Burns, if I'm the ownership group there with the Orioles, I'm moving heaven and earth to keep Corbin Burns on my roster. He's the best pitcher out there. He's the linchpin of my rotation right now. Even if I were to bring in Eovaldi and Crochet, it's still not going to be as good as if I had Corbin Burns. Now, money might keep it from happening because, again, Orioles are a little bit tight financially. The move of adding Tyler O'Neill bringing back Santander, I think should give them the ability to spend more money on a starting pitcher. So I would still be looking at trying to bring back Corbin Burns, but his market is really strong right now. Mets, Yankees, Blue Jays, Red Sox, all the teams that were in for Soto are still in there. You also have the San Francisco Giants that are in there for him as well. They've been negotiating with Burns pretty much exclusively for the early parts of free agency because they had prioritized him most. So their number, I imagine, was a little bit higher than these other teams. They got the job done bringing in Willy Adames, so I would not be surprised if the Giants are the team for Corbin Burns. Pitchers have done well out there in San Francisco, pitcher-friendly ballpark. If he goes there, I think he'll have a great career, and him and Logan Webb at the top of that rotation would be a great 1-2, something that could compete at least with the Dodgers 1-2. Now, of course, the Dodgers still have a great 1-2-3-4 that could compete with the 1-2 of the Giants anyway, even if they did bring in Burns. But at least that'd be a step in the right direction, another step in the right direction for the Giants if they did something like that. So it's been a while since the Giants actually had some positive momentum as an organization. Farhan Zaidi was an absolute albatross for them. Just did not work out. I mean, he tried to do the whole platoon thing. It worked great for 1 year, got to 107 wins or whatever it was when they beat the Dodgers for the division. But that's 1 year. The rest of the years were below average, were not what you expect out of the San Francisco Giants. And the other teams in the division have passed them by. Padres are far better. I would say even the Arizona Diamondbacks are a better team currently constructed, even after the signing of Willy Adames. Now, you bring in Corbin Burns, then we could start talking about the competition with the Diamondbacks. But for me, it's still the Dodgers division to lose. Padres, to me, are a little bit better than the Giants and Diamondbacks. But if the Diamondbacks bring back Christian Walker, we could revisit the possibility of them being the second place team in that division. But right now, I don't see it on paper unless they bring him back. But it is at least the first steps in the right direction for this Giants franchise since what, 2019, 2018, somewhere in there. And they really needed a bat, ever since Buster Posey left. Honestly, since Barry Bonds left, that's how long they've really needed a power bat in that lineup. And Willy Adames is going to bring some of that. I would expect them to still add a first baseman, starting pitcher, and some relief pitching. We got some news last night that Doval, the relief pitcher for the Giants, is getting some significant traction on the trade market as well. I would not be surprised if they moved on from him and capitalized on his value on the market and then signed somebody off of the free agent list. But those are some of the headlines here at the 1 o'clock hour, almost 2 o'clock now. Appreciate you guys joining us. Let's dig in one more time anyway to just any headlines, see if anything else is going on. Looks like they're having fun at the winter meetings. Jorge Polanco is here with his reps to meet teams. He said the surgically repaired right knee is feeling good and he's back to working out and will be ready for spring training. I know we had some Astros fans on here last night that were hoping Jorge Polanco would be a good backup option to losing Alex Bregman since Willy Adames has already signed. I think that would be kind of the, standard veteran, $10 million deal, $8 million deal that you sign and say, hey, for 1 year, he's at least productive. We can plug him in and hope for the best after the year. But Polanco, I think, would be a significant downgrade, obviously, than Alex Bregman. I think Bregman's market is the white-hot one right now is from a position player standpoint, along with those corner outfielders. Welcome in, JG. Appreciate you joining us once again. Check in on MLB Trade Rumors, see if anything else is going on. They have the Carson Kelly and Cubs deal on their page. If you joined us this morning, we discussed a little bit about what the next steps would be for the Yankees, and the trade on the screen is what we had kind of the thought I had last night after we had logged off, that if they were able to bring in a top-flight free agent, say like an Alex Bregman, to help take the sting out of losing Juan Soto a little bit, they don't necessarily have the top-level money left after losing or signing Bregman. Maybe a trade like Nathaniel Lowe could work to solve their first base needs. I'd be curious if they would bring in Christian Walker and Alex Bregman and then still address their bullpen and add a corner outfielder. That's a lot to shop for. This is a trade that could work for them. I wanted to get into some other trades as well, though. So let us know in the comments section who you guys want to do a trade for. I know a lot of Yankees fans are hurting because Juan Soto decided to go elsewhere. Mets fans are excited about their possibilities, but I think they're going to use more of their pocketbook strength rather than their prospects to be able to acquire talent. One team that I know is going to be trading is the St. Louis Cardinals. They say they're not going to trade Helsley, but I think that's a legitimate possibility. Same thing with Devin Williams with the Milwaukee Brewers. Those are a couple of teams that could sell. Marlins could offload some starting pitching, but so much of that starting pitching underperformed last year or was injured. They were going to go to the trade deadline last year and then trade some of those pieces, but those guys were not healthy and were not having good years, so they were not able to capitalize on that starting pitching. Maybe they are able to do so this offseason or take it to the deadline once again. But let's go ahead and do a trade here. Let's do a team like... Let's go ahead and do the White Sox. Let's do a Garrett Crochet deal. We'll do the Red Sox as the team since they seem to be the one most connected to them as of late. Crochet at 50 value here. Okay, we can do that one for you here in just a second, Paul. Let's look at the Red Sox. Roman Anthony obviously is going to be at the major league level at some point next year. They're not going to move him. Here is the one piece that they seem to be willing to discuss for Garrett Crochet. So let's go ahead and put him in the deal. Notice his value, though. 53. Crochet is about the same value. You're not going to do a straight one-for-one trade here, though. So I believe the Red Sox would have to add another piece to it. Let's go ahead and go down to the bottom of their prospect pool here. I think that's still a little rich. They're looking for position player talent more than anything else. Maybe you go with one of these 19-year-old shortstops just to round out the deal. And then a catcher. Something like that. And then you still get to hold on to Abreu as well. So that would be a pretty good deal. Let's go ahead and validate the trade. They think it's a fair deal, so let's look at the deal. Garrett Crochet to the Red Sox in exchange for Mayer, Anderson, and Garcia. Those are the two toss-ins at the back end of the deal, but that would be a pretty good deal if I'm the White Sox. You get 3 very good prospects here, 1 elite prospect that probably breaks through with your organization, this year or next with Mayer. Long-term possibilities there, and then 2 really good, or 2 young prospects that you can wish and hope upon. But overall, pretty good value here, and I like the deal. Let's go ahead and do the one for Paul next, the Vlad and Gausman combo, what that could look like. Let's go ahead and clear the trade. Let's go ahead and pull up the Blue Jays first. And are you saying you want it to go to the Giants? We can look into that one. I don't think they should do it, but we'll do it for kicks and giggles for starters, and then we'll do another trade that I think is more likely if they were to move on at the trade deadline for Vlad Guerrero Jr. So we'll start here. Majors is where we want to look. Gausman. There we go. Let's trade him. And then Vlad Guerrero. Okay, so looking at those two guys, 8.6 for Gausman, 16.7 for Guerrero. Guerrero, of course, a free agent after the year. Gausman, a free agent in 2 years. Gausman had a good run with the Giants anyway. I think he'd be a good get for them if they miss on Burns. Short-term costs, those kinds of things. Guerrero, I mean, if you're thinking you're a competitive team in the NL West, I think it's a little bit of a pipe dream, honestly, but say things break your way. Willy Adames brings up the level of your play better than you expected. You have a good first half of the year. Maybe the Dodgers don't. Their rotation is injured, whatever the case may be, and you think you have a chance to compete. This could be an opportunity here. Now, what do the Giants have to give up in return? We're looking for around 20-ish million. Or 20-ish in value, anyway. You're not going to trade too much off your roster. Matos might be the one piece you have to give up in order for this to happen. I don't think they would do it, though. Let's say they do Birdsong as a starting pitcher to the Blue Jays. They do Tibbs. And then a lower-level piece, say like Arias. Something like that. 23 to 25, maybe you throw in one more piece at the back end of this deal as well. Say you throw in Luciano since you just signed Adames. I like Luciano as a prospect. The Blue Jays prospects really haven't worked out. But look at that deal. That would be something I could see happening. If the Giants were to do something like, compete this year, which I don't think they will, but if they did, that could be a representative trade. Not bad. Now let's go ahead and clear this trade again. I want to do something for the Blue Jays. Say around the trade deadline, they want to get rid of Vlad Guerrero Jr. before they lose him for nothing in free agency. So who could be the teams that are interested? Well, teams that need first base, let's go ahead and look at the Astros. Say they don't go out there and spend and they just go with, stopgap options at first base. They stick with John Singleton there for now. Let's just say they go that route for a Vlad Guerrero Jr. Now we're looking at roughly, 16 value? There's not a whole lot of value in the minors for this team, but let's go ahead and say they put in Matthews here. A shortstop prospect would be good, and then Baez. 2 pieces, and then the Blue Jays essentially would have fleeced the Astros of all of their pieces that are left. Paul, I agree there. Harrison probably does it, but I don't think they would move Harrison in a deal for anybody right now. I think they'd rather hold on to him. But look at that deal. Astros add to make one last run at a postseason at winning a World Series by bringing in Vlad Guerrero Jr. Plus, they then would have the ability to sign him long term if they're able to agree to a contract. That and have the exclusive negotiating window after the season before other teams can discuss with him. So, this would be a fairly good deal. A couple of prospects going back to the Blue Jays, but again, this is a deal for at the trade deadline right now. I don't think it would happen as currently constructed. Try Crochet and the Orioles. I can do that one here in just a second, John. About $55 million in savings this season for the Blue Jays. Well, remember, that trade would probably take place around the trade deadline, so it probably would only save them maybe $20 million. Wouldn't be a whole lot of savings there financially for the Blue Jays. Plus, they have all kinds of money to burn over the next, decade. That's why they had the money to go after Soto. So the savings isn't really what they're after. It'd be more about recouping value on the open market for the pieces that they're going to lose in free agency. We can do one for Framber. I don't think the Astros would move him, though. I think they're focused on the possibility of trading Ryan Presley. Seems like the Astros are pushing that narrative as they look to try to save a little bit of payroll here. I doubt they'll be able to afford a guy like Alex Bregman. I think that chance is almost zero, if not zero already. But if they're able to move Ryan Presley, maybe that frees up a little bit more money for them to acquire Christian Walker. So that'd be the reason why I believe they're moving on from Presley if they're able to do it. Yankees are doomed now. I say go after Alex Bregman and Christian Walker. Those would be the two pieces I would look at if I'm the Yankees. I think they could probably get Bregman. I don't think they'd be able to get both. Not because they don't have the money or the financial wherewithal to do it. I just think that Walker's got a very robust market for a first baseman. I think the Mets are going to be able to retain Pete Alonso, which means there are so many other teams that once you sign Alex Bregman, all the other teams still have an impetus to improve. And so while you get your guy in Alex Bregman, you still are needing a first baseman. There are some out there. Maybe you're able to double down and bring in Christian Walker. But the trade that I had earlier of Nathaniel Lowe, I would view as more likely to happen than bringing in both of those pieces. Now, if they don't miss, or say they miss on Bregman, then I think they could bring in Walker, Santander, or a guy like Hernandez as well. Those, I think, are all possibilities. Any Giants news? Not too much. They're in the market for Burns. They've been talking about adding some starting pitching and then a first baseman. Pete Alonso is still on the free agent market, but I believe that the New York Mets are the team for him. I would expect 5 for $125 before it's all said and done. Maybe a little more, maybe a little bit less, but around 5 for $125 is what I would expect for Pete Alonso. I do not think he's a possibility for the Yankees. I think it's a fait accompli now that he goes back to the New York Mets. But let's go ahead and do that trade there for John Crochet and the Orioles. Let's go ahead and clear this trade out. Let's go ahead and do the Orioles first, White Sox last. Flip over to the White Sox here, trade him to the Orioles. Remember, we're looking at roughly 53. Let's look at the Orioles prospects here. What could they give up? They have roughly 50 in value that they're going to have to add here. You're not trading Gunnar, Rutschman, Henderson. Basayo could be the one piece that you move here as the centerpiece here. They are looking for position players. So, Kobe Mayo might make some sense here. Cowser could, but I think they're going to hold on to Cowser. Hurstead could, but I think they're going to hold on to him. There's not too many prospects that meet the ask of what the Orioles are looking for. So I think Basayo would have to be the piece going. And I don't think there's really many other pieces that they have that would easily fit into a trade like this, which is why I think the Orioles might have to overpay more than a team like the Red Sox. Let's go ahead and throw in Arias here, young prospect, and Sanchez. We'll do both of those guys. Now, like I said, this is a little bit more value going out to the to the White Sox anyway from the Orioles. So maybe the White Sox throw in another major league piece. Let's go ahead and add one more, say around the 8 million in value. Vaughn could be a piece. I think that would be actually a decent option if they moved on from Andrew Vaughn. Slater, maybe. Nothing really jumps out to me, but we'll go ahead and throw in Andrew Vaughn. Doesn't have a whole lot of value here, but I think, as a bench bat, give them some production, low cost. Something like this could work for both teams. I wouldn't do it if I'm the Orioles. I wouldn't do it if I'm the White Sox, because I would rather have, my position, or the position that's coming to me, be from, a position right up the middle, like shortstop. Catcher, the position is down across baseball. There's not a whole lot of great catchers out there. Maybe Basayo is the real difference maker here because the catcher premium, the premium on being a catcher. But I think there's a more likely chance that Mayer is a hit at the major league level than a catcher is at this point, because catching is such a difficult position to predict when you have a minor league catcher. To get him to break into the big leagues and have that same level of impact that he did in the minors is a lot more difficult to to quantify rather than a shortstop coming up. Sure, there's still a big jump coming up from Double A to Triple A, Triple A to the big leagues, but I would have more faith that Mayer could figure it out than Samuel Basayo. Max Fried, I think he's more likely for the Red Sox. I think the Orioles could be a fit there. Yankees, I don't think are necessarily a great fit for Max Fried. I just think that they would prefer Corbin Burns, and I think they would prefer going after some upgrades to their lineup before they go with Fried. Brianna, Phillies win 2025. I still believe the Dodgers on the National League side, but they are right there. I want to see how the moves work out before I say the Phillies overtake either one of the Mets or the Dodgers. Jonathan, 5 for 125 would be a good deal for Alonso. The question would be, would he take it? I like Pete. I don't want him to end up like Michael Conforto, betting on himself on too much instead of what the market says. I would agree. I think 5 for 125 sounds about right. Maybe he holds out for 5 at 135 just to kind of say, hey, I did well in free agency for a first baseman. Look at me. But Vlad Guerrero Jr. is going to do better in free agency next year. For me, I would rather have Christian Walker as a free agent anyway in this class. He's a little older than Pete Alonso. Doesn't have the same power numbers, but he's a better defender, a better gap hitter as well, and the power started to show a little bit more this past year or two. Playoff pedigree, all those kinds of things as well. Leader on it in the clubhouse. He would be the guy I would target because it's going to cost a little bit less than Pete Alonso on top of that. So for me, I get a more well-rounded player than a guy who does have the most valuable tool in the game, which is hitting a 3-run home run in that tool bag. But outside of that, you start to wonder, he doesn't have speed for a first baseman. He doesn't have the ability to hit for contact or anything like that. Strikeouts can be an issue for him. His swing can get a little bit long and have big slumps during the year. Christian Walker doesn't really have those. And that's why I'd rather go with the higher floor of a Christian Walker. I think he would raise my team production a little bit better, and he would help out defensively, being able to lower earned run averages, those kinds of things, get to a ball, hit into the hole, and scoop everything out of the dirt a little bit better than what Pete Alonso can. So that's where things are at the 1 o'clock hour. Appreciate you guys joining us. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe if you're new here. We really do appreciate those of you who have decided to join us here at the Upside. Hit that subscribe. I noticed we gained a few subscribers during our live today. Really does help us out. And we'll be live again later on this evening around 7, 8 o'clock. We'll update you guys on everything that's happened. And if there's any breaking news, any big news, say Alex Bregman's size, we will come live as well. We'll have some short videos kind of recapping some of the moves that have happened already. Juan Soto will have a video coming out about him, Romano, Conforto as well, and the Blake Trinan deal. John, who are the Rangers looking at seriously, pitchers or position players? They're right now focused on pitchers. I would say they're most heavily trying to bring back Nathan Eovaldi. They're looking at Roque Sasaki, but that's not going to happen, and that market isn't really going to start developing until after the new year. I think they're working on that one as well. They're looking at the back end of that bullpen, possibly moving back John Gray to that closer role. He's never done it before, but his stuff did play up in the postseason. He's shown the ability to do it once you get to October, so I'd imagine he would be able to do it during the 162. But they're not done looking at the possibility of bringing back Andrew Heaney or Kirby Yates. Carlos Estevez has been a name that's been mentioned with the Rangers. Sean Manaea as well. On the trade front, they could look into Garrett Crochet. They've touched base with him before around the trade deadline. They're looking into Crochet. They're also looking at Jordan Montgomery from the Arizona Diamondbacks. So they have a lot of irons in the fire. Almost all of them are pitching related right now. And that's kind of where their focus is. We'll see what hitter they decide to bring in. the trade here that I brought up at the end of our video in the morning, and what I brought up again earlier with the Yankees. If they did move on from Nathaniel Lowe, they would have to have a better option, or at least another option to replace him in that lineup. Maybe they decide to free up the money and just allow Ezekiel Duran to take everyday at bats there, or Josh Smith. That's one possibility, but for me, I would rather go out there and bring in Christian Walker. So let us know in the comments section what you think of the deal for Soto, what your favorite teams are doing right now. And if you have any questions, please feel free to send us a super chat. We'll try to get to those during our next live. But thank you guys for joining us here. We'll see you guys a little bit later on this evening, breaking down the latest from MLB's winter meetings. Y'all have a great one.